Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Ashton Penney on the podcast coming to us all the way from the Lone Star State that is Texas. And she just recently won her pro card in the wellness division. So we're really excited to talk to her about that. But I mean, most importantly, she is, just here to share her health and fitness lifestyle and journey with us. And couldn't be more than happy to have her on. And again, Ashton, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
First of all, I always love to ask, what is the weather like in Texas today?
It is hot. It's miserably hot. We finally hit the spikes where we get all the heat waves again. So all the gyms are nasty and grimy and sweaty again.
Okay, yeah. So I'm at that part. Even if it's a little hot up here, I have to wait to go on my walks at night. I work out during the day and then walk at night. Yeah, it is just way too much for me. And yeah, I mean, we're entering the dog days of summer coming up, so it should get really, really interesting. But before I depress everyone with that, why don't you start off, give us your backstory on what, inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to you becoming a bodybuilder?
So growing up, I was always really competitive and I loved sports and competing and all that. I did track in junior high, in high school and college. And so, kind of like with track, if you don't go to the Olympics, there's not really anything else you can do with it after that. So I was looking for something else competitive to get into. And like contact sports where there's a ball, if there's soccer, anything like that, I'm not coordinated enough for that. I don't know what it is, but I can't do it. So I saw bodybuilding like on Instagram. I always had a bunch of Instagram idols. My first one was Hattie, I think you say Boydell.
Boyle, I think it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's the Australian fitness model. I always looked up to her, and she was doing fitness shows. So I was like, I guess I'll try that. And I found the NPC, and I started looking into everything I could do with them, and just went for it.
That is awesome. And I mean, so many people have so many reservations or they have myths about the sport of bodybuilding because they're so uninformed, the general public. Was there anything that you were concerned about before you got into the sport, or was it one of those things where you just wanted to jump right in?
I was kind of concerned that I wouldn't be able to, I guess, grow my muscle like the other girls. Like, obviously, they were able to do it, and there's other girls doing it, but I was kind of like, will I be able to get on that level or be able to compete like that? I mean, once you put in the time and the effort, it always like ends up working out.
So I normally ask the question about genetics on this podcast, but I'm not even going to do it with her because, as everyone knows, legs are the one thing that I hate more than life itself. And just taking one look at any of one of her photos, so I'll just ask this: did you always have nice legs like you do right now? And please tell me if that's the case, because if it's one of those things where you just trained them like that, I'm going to be very, very angry.
Well, I think track kind of set up the what do you call the foundation for them. They definitely weren't as big as they are now because I've been focusing on them a lot more. But I definitely had like calves and legs from track because I did hurdles, so they had a little help early on.
I'm glad that you said that, because like if they were like my legs right now and then all of a sudden turn yours, I was like, okay, we need to get on our training program ASAP. But yeah, that is awesome. And I mean, getting into this sport though too, a lot of people just don't understand that this is so much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport. I mean, you're going to see the changes physically, but mentally, I mean, just that mental shift that you're going to have to make is just vastly more important. What was this whole journey been like for you? Excuse me. What has this whole journey been like for you mentally? Because I mean, it's just so much harder, I feel, for so many of the competitors.
It definitely is a mental sport. Just like the look wise, like you see on social media, all the other girls that look better than you, and you're always comparing yourself. So it's always a mental battle with that. And then every day, like you're in the gym, you're like waiting for the results to finally like show, and you have to just be like, okay, just keep going. Like don't focus right now. Like it'll pay off. And I always bug my coach Jonathan. He's like, "It's okay, just keep grinding, like follow the plan. It all pays off in the end." And then the other side of it, the just like the actual workout aspects, whenever you're in a set and you have to keep pushing and you just have to focus, and like it hurts obviously, but it'll pay off and you have to keep just pushing your mental boundaries with that.
Absolutely. And I mean, especially with the mental part, I mean, there's going to be days where you're not feeling it, where you don't want to go and work out. And I don't care what anyone says. And I've had people on the podcast that have been like, oh, that's never happened to me. And I just tell them, I was like, yeah, okay. I just nod and say yes. And I just pretend like that's the truth. But let's be honest, you're all going to have those days. And how do you personally deal with those days when, you're not feeling 100% into the gym? Because I think that's what separates a lot of the bodybuilders from the general public, is that the general public people would, they'd be fine with just taking the day off, where bodybuilders, they're just, I have to get this workout in.
Hmm. Well, not every day is going to be the best workout. You won't go into the gym and have your just like that moment where you're just like, okay, that was everything I did was perfect, and I'm obviously making strides forward. But just showing up sometimes and being there and checking in is good enough. Like, get your workout in. It doesn't have to be perfect, and just like having that routine to where you don't take a misstep, because come back the next day and you'll have your good workout.
No, and yeah, and those are some of the best feelings ever, is when you go in those crappy days and finally get your workout in, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm done now. But one thing that I forgot to mention in my intro that I was going to say for later is that she's also a flight attendant, everyone. So she has one of the crazier jobs that we've had on this podcast. And the fact that you're able to even stay in shape while being a flight attendant is the most, impressive thing. But what got you interested in becoming a flight attendant?
I've always wanted to travel, so I figured this would be I can make an income this way, and I'm still able to fulfill like all the dreams I have of seeing the world. And I've seen so much being with American Airlines. It's been just like within the 3 years or 4 years now, I've been to Europe, to Hong Kong, Bali, all of South America, the Caribbean. It's been just like a dream job.
Now, how are you still able to, coordinate, find gyms, do all that type of stuff? Because that would be the most frustrating thing for me, is just with the health and fitness aspect. Is just like, first of all, and getting used to the time zones too. That's a whole nother conundrum in and of itself. But how have you been dealing with all that too?
So whenever I'm on prep, I definitely try to gear my trips towards layovers to where I know there will be a gym nearby, and I try to stay like within the United States more and major cities, because there's always going to be a gym, like whether it's just a Snap Fitness or Fitness Connection, they're everywhere. So I'll just Uber to a gym, and then if not, like the hotel gyms, they have enough stuff to where you can get creative and make your workout work there as well. But being able to like go on layovers in different areas, it keeps the workouts interesting, I think, because then you get creative and you get new environments and also meeting new people. I've been able to meet so many new people like in the bodybuilding world just by having layovers and going to their gyms or asking them to come work out with me. And it's been really fun.
I mean, yeah, that is fast. I mean, this is just such a niche community, and getting to know everyone is just so fascinating. And just, yeah, just the fact. I mean, like I told you before, you're the second flight attendant that I've had on this podcast, and for me, that's just the most impressive thing. And out of all the places that you've been to, though, what is your favorite?
Bali, hands down. It is the most beautiful place like ever. We spent 2 weeks there, and we went to all of the rice fields, the coffee plantations. We went to they have these two islands, Nusa Penida, and I can't remember what the other one is, but it's like Instagram heaven. Everybody that goes there, you'll have pictures out the wazoo.
Yeah, I've always wanted to travel. I mean, I've been to almost every place in the U.S. I just have never gone international, so that's something that I've always wanted to do. And you're just inspiring me to do it now. Have you been to Norway?
I have not. I
Okay,
need to go there for sure.
just because that's the one on my bucket list, because I'm mainly Norwegian and I saw a family that lived there, and just go visit the fjords and stuff. So that's definitely the one for me. But yeah, Bali, I'm gonna have to make sure I remember that. And I have had I have had, actually, no, not two friends, one friend that went there, and because I know the one that went to Thailand. But the Bali one, yeah, I remember they did say that it was really really cool. But yeah, that is just honestly just so impressive. And one thing that most people do not understand about this lifestyle, though, too, the bodybuilding lifestyle, is that, I mean, your nutrition is so much more important than mainly anything else in this lifestyle. And people, like I told you before, that's the one reason probably why I didn't compete, is because I just cannot. I gotta have a beer and a hot dog and a hamburger, every once in a while. But what were some of the bigger nutritional changes that you made when you really started, get into the thick of things?
Well, whenever I first started, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna suck." Like just rice, chicken, veggies, like broccoli, spinach, whatever. I was like, it's gonna be awful, boring. But now that I've been like competing and prepping for like 2 years now, like I've gotten creative. Like you don't have to make the diet boring. Like I use stevia in a lot of recipes, like make it sweet still and get creative with stuff. But you just you just really have to get creative with the diet, and it's really not that bad.
I mean, and plus, you got to once you add the flavors too. I mean, it isn't too bad. I mean, my little
Mhm.
brother,
I
he's
am
not.
like the sauce queen.
Oh yeah. I mean, so what is your go-to thing to put on like a chicken or rice or anything?
I'll have like probably 10, 15 different sauces. So just whatever I want that day. The sugar-free barbecue sauce, the uh what is it? The green sauce, that the Tabasco one, just everything. Anything and everything.
Do you ever just want to pull an ultimate and put everything on?
I do that too. Mix
Oh
it all
my
up.
oh my god, yeah, I can't. I used to work at a pizza place like 10 years ago when I was like my first job ever, and just people just order the ultimates. That just makes me cringe even now to this day after all the work that we had to put into that. But no, yeah, that is great. And yeah, I mean, you really do have to mix things up, and just that whole nutrition thing. I mean, that's just a whole tangent that people do not understand, and I love to bring that up. But I mean, the most shocking thing for me before I started this podcast, I had really no idea that it was, for a lot of these competitors, the most important thing and the hardest thing for them is posing. I would have never guessed it in a million years, but I compare it now to, being a perfect driver, where you can be a great driver, you can never be a perfect driver, you can be a great poser, you can never be a perfect poser. It's always ever evolving. What has your experience and relationship with posing been like?
You found the one, like, my biggest weakness in bodybuilding. I like, growing up, I was the tomboy. I did not do anything girly at all. Like, I wanted to be outside running around with boys. And I got into bodybuilding and I was like, okay, cool, I can do this. Like, I like to work out. Like, I have muscle, it'll be fine. And then they're like, okay, you have to put heels on and pose. And I was like, no, like, I never wear heels. I never do any of that. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I need to rethink this. So that's been my number one struggle. And like with the first show, it was a disaster, and I just looked like an awkward little duckling. And then the my last local show, the branch show, I got a little bit better. And then this show is still not where it needs to be. Like whenever I asked the judges for critiques, they were like, "Okay, you need to learn how to walk in heels." I was like, I know. You need to learn how to walk in heels. You need to learn how to pose." I was like, "Okay, I'll get better at it. Like we'll work on it." But that's going to be the biggest thing I'm working on for the next 4 to 6 weeks before the pro shows.
Well, geez, when you're so bottom heavy too, I mean, the walking part's got to be got to be the toughest part then too, because everyone, like, you can't see it right now, but I am not over exaggerating when her legs and her lower body are literally like just like, I was even going to ask her the question. So, being a flight attendant, have you ever actually had that, like, walking down the aisles? Have you ever struggled with that? Because
I'm not that
well,
big.
no, no, no. I mean, like, even walking in between seats then too and stuff like that. Because like, back in my time when I was, you know, in better shape than I am right now, I sometimes struggle with like going through stuff like that, even with my legs as little as they are.
Hmm. No, like, definitely like squeezing through stuff now. Like I'm like my legs have definitely caused a problem before. Like sometimes going down the aisle, bumping into people, but usually it's okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's, hey, that's one of the things that happens with this sport too. But yeah, that posing thing, I mean, the body's just not meant to be in that flex of a state for that long a period of time. It's just not meant to, and especially those heels too, where it's like I always said, if you made the guys wear heels, that would be the most entertaining thing in the world. Because just to add on to that, but out of your poses that you do for wellness, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
I would probably say my front pose is the pose that I need to work on the most, and that me and Samantha, she's with Better Bodies as well. Me and her have been working with the most is the front pose, and then I like my side pose. I feel like this, like the I guess the quad sweep on my legs is kind of like my strong point, and then the back pose, it's like always been kind of iffy. Like I like it better now. I'm more comfortable with it now, but all of them are getting better.
Well, I mean, the one positive with the back is that you can let your smile down, and that's the one thing that people don't understand is that your jaw muscles are going to be some of the most sore things after this show in the first place, because you're not supposed to smile for that long a period of time too. That's the one thing that I learned from one of my guests when she was talking about it, and I was like, wow, I never really thought of it that way. But I mean, yeah, I guess that is
You have all
true.
those people looking at you and you're like, "Okay, smile. Remember smile. Remember smile."
And let's be honest, when you're someone who's as pale as I am, where you just have that thick Norwegian whiteness, the tan is going to be one thing that you struggle with too. I always told people too, another reason why I never did anything was because I need about 10 layers. That's, I would spend, half of my salary just on tanning alone. But what is that process like for you? Because people do not understand that is sometimes the most uncomfortable thing. And, just that tan that you have to get to look, I mean, it's not the most pleasant thing. It's sticky for a lot of people. And, you can't really sit on anything. You can't really lay on anything. I mean, you just really, for that look, people do not understand really the process that goes into it.
Oh no, like I'm super, super pale, like naturally. My coach, he always tells me, "Okay, I can't tell what's going on in check-ins because you just like you're glowing white." I'm like, "Okay, I'll go get a tan." And for the show, I actually went in on Thursday night to get my first coat because I wanted to make sure I was going to be dark enough. Because my last show, their critique was that I didn't have a dark enough tan. So I went Thursday night, and then I went Friday night and got two more coats, and then Saturday I went and got another coat. So I had four coats, and I made the big mistake of not bringing my own sheets, and I ruined the Airbnb sheets. I had to pay $200. I was like, okay, lesson learned, lesson learned. But my tan looked amazing, so it was worth it.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing people always talk about is they bring in their own sheets, they bring in their own everything for that too. But yeah, that is I can I just want to see the person's reaction when they went into your room and then they're just like,
Oh
okay,
yeah, they're probably like, "What is wrong with this girl?"
yeah. No, but that is again, that's the little things about bodybuilding that I love to talk about on this show because when you talk to the general public and you say bodybuilding, they say, "Oh, those are people who just work out a lot and they go on stage and they pose," and it's like, you got about 1% of it, right? So I love to bring up all the little nuances in it. But I mean, what is that feeling like for you when you put in, the months upon months of hard work into it, and then you're finally able to step on that stage and show off all that hard work that you've worked so hard on?
It's, like so my dad, I invited him to this show, and he was in the Airbnb with me and my coach and my friend, and, he was watching us go through all the dieting and the, like, carb loading and the posing and the tanning and everything, and he was like, "Okay, there actually is, like, more to this. I, like, understand why you're coming over to do cardio at, like, 11 o'clock at night, riding the bike and everything." He's like, "Okay, I appreciate it a little bit more now." I'm like, "Thank you, thank you." But, like, the working out and doing everything and finally it all coming together the week of your show, it's just like kind of a surreal feeling because you're like, okay, finally I can breathe. Like once they handed me the pro card on stage, I was like, okay, you're good, you're done. Like you finally did it. I was like, you can relax.
Well, and what's that moment like for you though too? Because for so many people, they comment that the highlight of their career, no matter what they do afterwards, is winning their pro card for a lot of them, just because that is the affirmation that all that hard work that you've put in, you can finally compete in the pro shows now, and it's just for so many people that is the highlight. What was that moment like for you? And they announced your name, and you realized, okay, I'm a pro card now, winner now.
It kind of didn't register with me at first, and they like said my name, and I was like, "Wait, like, did y'all make a mistake? Are you sure?" And I walked over there, and I was like, "Okay, this is awesome! Like, I finally can compete with all the girls that I've been looking up to." That's another thing that's been really crazy. Like a lot of the girls that I follow on Instagram that I've always looked up to, and I'm like, I hope I can like look like them one day. Like we're friends now, and they follow me, and it's just like it's it's weird.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that feeling must be like too because I was always in team sports, so I never really understood that. But yeah, that's just a feeling that I don't think, a lot of people can describe. But now we go to my favorite question. What was your go-to post-show meal afterwards?
What did we do? A lot of things were closed, so I had cupcakes as soon as I walked off stage. I ate 3 cupcakes. I was like, "Okay, slow down, Ashton, slow down. You have pictures in the morning, like, calm down." And I was like we got back to the, Airbnb, and I ate a cookie too. I was like, "Okay, now you're done. No more."
Oh, I would
I
have them
think
take
it's
I
person.
would do my photo shoot eating cupcakes then too. I do like the poses and then like have a cupcake in my hand in a mouth. Yeah, but no, that's yeah,
I'm
I
sure
can't
JM would have really appreciated that.
I have never been that hungry where like I could just crave food that much, but I can't imagine what that must be like. But thank God I'm not too, because I could imagine that I'm going to be the person that pigs out and gains 40 pounds in like a night, and I'd be totally fine with that too because I would just be so hungry for it. But yeah, one thing that a lot of people do struggle with though is that post show rebound, and like when you're competing in shows, couple months at a time, what has this whole journey been like for you with that too? Realizing that, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to maintain this weight for forever and I'm going to have to put on some weight. Unfortunately, that is the case. What has that been like for you mentally and just realizing that, like, hey, having these shows and, months apart, just being able to keep that size for as long as you can?
Mhm. Well, with my coach now on this prep, it wasn't really that big of an issue because he's really good about not depleting you like drastically, and we have refeeds, so like my cravings weren't bad at all this prep, and then afterwards they weren't bad either, so it's been okay. And then for the rebound, like we're gonna obviously, what do you call it, add carbs and fats back in slowly, so it won't be too big of an issue. But I talked to Jonathan and I was like, okay, I want to try to stay like a little bit leaner this off season and keep things a little bit more where I'm not so thick. And he's like, okay, Ashton, like you have to get thick to put on muscle to make improvements. I was like, I know. He's like, all the Instagram girls, like those pictures are from months before. I'm like, okay, you're right, you're right. Like I won't think about it. But I think.
we were talking about big legs, and you pointed that out to me. Your coach, good God, he might be the one guy that struggles, walking through airplanes and stuff like that. Because yeah,
He
that's
has to walk sideways.
oh yeah, you pointed that out to me when I messaged her, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna warn you. Like, I hate people with big legs because it's something that I could never grow myself. And then you're like, look at my coach, and I looked at your coach, and I was like, okay, what the like, what is going on
If
here?
you
Like,
ever
what?
see him, don't stand too close because you'll it's just like it's embarrassing. It's even embarrassing for me. I'm like, okay, back up a little bit. Your legs are too big.
Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, yeah, especially with the putting on the weight, it's just like starting your own business. You got to spend money to make money. You got to put on weight if you want to put on muscle. Unfortunately, those two do go hand in hand. But I mean, let's be honest. You're not the average looking woman especially if you're to walk out in the public like the way you are right now with that tan, or just even as you are in prep. I mean, you are going to get people's attention. I like to compare it sort of like being a mini celebrity, where people, whenever they see something that's not of their normal, they're just like, oh wow, that's interesting, and then you get their attention. And what's that whole journey been like for you, especially being a flight attendant, where you are going to get people's attention a lot, just being in that flight attendant role?
Oh yeah, the week before my peak week, I was flying to Denver to go meet up with Jonathan because I had a layover there, and I was just like handing stuff to people on the plane, and all my veins were popping out. People were like, "What is going on? Like, who is this girl? Why she look so crazy?" And so it's funny getting people's reactions. And like you explain that you're in bodybuilding, they're like, "Oh, okay, okay." Usually they have like a lot of respect for you because they know the diet that goes into it and everything, and they're interested. So people they kind of embrace it. It's not that big of like a freak show kind of thing.
Well, yeah, too, and it's you're not like in the female bodybuilding category too. I mean, like there's a difference too. So that's, but still, I mean, yeah, just the amount of what you do with your diet and stuff like that. Like I told you, I could never do myself. So the moment you'd mention that to me, I'd be like, okay, just to have one of my peanuts, like really, just have one. I feel bad for you, but no, that's just no. I mean, it's part of the lifestyle, and that's the one thing that really made me want to have bodybuilders on this podcast, is just realizing that so many people just don't understand that the dedication aspect of this sport. They just see the end result, and that's the most impressive thing to me. But also, when it comes to this lifestyle, I mean, two of the things that I love to talk about is that so many people do not understand that the hardest thing when it comes to this lifestyle is sleep. I don't care what anyone says, and anyone disagrees with me on that, I tell them, go pull an all-nighter and then tell me how that works out for you. Sleep is just the make or break thing for so many things, and especially being a flight attendant and traveling through all these time zones, which I know you haven't done all of that through prep, but I mean, just doing all that too. What does your sleep schedule look like, and how have you been able to maintain a somewhat normal sleep schedule? Because that is the make or break thing for. I mean, if I have less than like 5 hours of sleep, there's no way I'm working out that day.
Sleep definitely makes or breaks your physique. Like whenever I don't get enough sleep and I do my check-ins, like my coach can see automatically. He's like, okay, like what's going on? Did you not sleep enough? Did you not do this? And on prep, just like whenever I started sleeping more, one night I dropped like 3 pounds just like that. Changes your overall physique, but being a flight attendant, you kind of have to get sleep when you can because the crew scheduling is not nice with trips. They don't consider your sleep really like at all, so you kind of have to just go with the flow and sleep when you can. But whenever you get home, you can just make it up and try to get back on schedule as quick as you can. So it's not that bad, and you just have to get used to it, I guess.
Well, speaking of that, what is the longest flight you've ever been on?
That was my Hong Kong flight. So that flight was 18 hours long, and I was about ready to jump out of the airplane. I felt like I was living on the airplane. But we get there's bunks in the top of the airplane, so we get crew rest time, and you would go to sleep for I think we have like 4 hours to take a break. You wake up and you still have another what was it like 6 or 8 hours to go, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to get off this plane. But once we got to Hong Kong, we had a 3-day layover, so we got to run around and see everything, go shopping, so it was worth it.
Just standing around for that long a period of time is just the worst thing. But yeah, that is ridiculous. And I was wondering how they did it with cruise, because like, you're not expecting me to work 18 straight hours, right? Like that's not but yeah, that's yeah. So that is awesome too. But yeah, I'm sorry that those time zones, as being a guy that's had people from almost all over the world on the podcast too. I understand that. In those damn Aussies, I mean, I have to be up basically at like 10 o'clock at night just to talk to them, because it's like 1 o'clock their time basically. And then, I mean, let's be honest, the bane of my existence, I hate it more than life itself, is cardio. And when I'm talking about cardio, I'm talking about like actual running. Like, I can go and walk, like I walk almost every night, and I'm totally fine with that. But what is your relationship like with cardio?
I love cardio, so I usually do the stairmaster because I feel like it gives you more work on your glutes too to like tighten them up and cut things down. and I'll do the bike some days, and then I go over to my dad's and I'll go ride bikes with my little siblings. They hate it sometimes, but I'm like, go do cardio with me. Like, come on, help me. And I like to run too. Me and my friend, we actually did a marathon in Paris, and it was probably the worst experience ever, but it was fun still because we didn't train for it. I don't know what we were thinking, but we both like ran. I think we both ran 1 mile like 3 days before the marathon. And that was all we did, and we went out there and just winged it, and we paid for it a lot.
Did you at least complete the marathon?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I was determined to complete it. I told my coach that I want to do an ultra marathon too. They have this one in Iceland that's I believe it's 120 miles and it's over 3 to 5 days, like however fast you can complete it. And he was like, "No, you're not allowed to." He's like, "Your muscle will go away so bad if you do that." I was like, "Okay, maybe after we get to the Olympia, then we'll go for that."
Yeah, but I've always said that marathon runners, that's a mental illness because who wants to run for that far? But hey, more power to you because so I have walked a marathon before in a day, but that is, that's the most you're ever going to get me to do. I mean, I even told an ex-girlfriend of mine, you're going to have to chase me with a knife if you want to see me ever run. Cause that's the only time. But yeah, I have a friend right now who he's currently training for a marathon. And Brian, you're a psychopath. I don't get why he gets up at like 5 a.m. and runs. And I don't understand that type of mentality, but like I was realizing as soon as I asked you that question, being that you were in track and field, I mean, that is sort of right up your alley. But yeah, it's just impressive, and I mean, especially during COVID, the whole coronavirus, which I mean, I mean, it's so much better now in the U.S. than it was. But being that you were a flight attendant and that you were a bodybuilder, how did you deal with this whole pandemic? Because especially with flights being, as crazy as they got, and with the whole bodybuilding thing where the gyms were shut down all over, how did you cope with this whole pandemic?
So I actually was furloughed from the airlines because we didn't have enough flights to fly. So I think there was about 10,000 of us that got laid off during the pandemic. So I've always been interested in going to law school. So I went and I was on the attorney review board for one of the government agencies. So it kind of gave me an opportunity to spread out and try different things. So I'm between flight school to be a pilot and law school right now. We're trying to figure out which one to go for. But during the pandemic, all the gyms around me were closed, so I had to drive an hour to this one gym that was secretly open for the bodybuilders, and that was like my go-to. So it wasn't really that bad for the bodybuilding aspect for me, but yeah.
So, how do you have any time at all to do anything if you're going through law school, flight attendant, and you're a bodybuilder?
I think it keeps life interesting. I feel like a lot of bodybuilders they only think about bodybuilding and they're only in the industry and that's kind of their is all. And like I love bodybuilding, I love competing, I love the mental push from it, but I still know that there's more life out there beyond that and I want more to my story than just being a bodybuilder, which obviously I want to be the best bodybuilder and go to the Olympia and succeed as much as I can, but I also want to have other outlets that I'm successful in as well.
Which I am so glad that you said that because I tried, my hand at bodybuilding. I never competed like I told you, but I realized that, it is such a time consuming thing. And people do not understand that when they're looking at it from the outside. And it's like, there's so much more to life than doing that. And, I appreciate anyone that does that. But I just wanted, people to just realize that too. It's like, you sacrifice so much for that look that a lot of times you don't have anything else to do really other than that. So you just got to make sure that that's the one thing that you really enjoy. And I'm so glad that you're able to find that, I mean, yeah, that you're probably the one bodybuilder that I know of now that like actually has traveled the world and stuff and done all that, which is amazing. But yeah, just realizing that there's so much more to life than just the working out. And hey, it's great for you, and it's you look great too as well. But it's just yeah, there's so much more, and I'm so glad that you have that. And I mean, pilot license and lawyer. I mean, you are probably the one of the most accomplished people if you did that then that I'd know because like I'm still struggling sometimes to get out of bed at times and then she's going and getting her about to get her flight license or become a lawyer and it's good god. School was never my high point. I will just leave it at that. So that's where I'm coming from on that aspect. But yeah, that is just incredible. So everyone, we won't just be just embarrassed of the way that she looks. We'll be embarrassed by her career then too. So it's a double-edged sword then basically then what I like to say. But I mean, one of the things that I also love to talk about, especially with the pandemic, you know, coming to an end, people have put on some COVID weight. I'm not gonna lie, I put on my 10 pounds of COVID, and I'm slowly starting to walk it off. But what advice do you have for people just looking to get started again back into this lifestyle? Because so many people, I think, I have so many friends that just go full on Rambo and they go and work out, like 3 hours a day for like a couple of days, and then they just burn themselves out. And other people are just so afraid, but they don't. I just like to tell them, I mean, once you take that first step into the gym, it is so hard to walk out of there without getting a workout in. But what advice do you have for anyone who might, come up to you and say, Ashton, I want to start my own fitness journey as well?
So whenever I first started my fitness journey, I'd have like a few months where I was working out and then a few weeks where I'd take off. It was kind of going back and forth. And to really get into it, I found finding a workout partner or like getting into like a team kind of atmosphere. It helped to push me because it held me accountable. And once I was back in the routine for a few weeks, then I could kind of branch out on my own, and it made it easier, just like having the accountability and somebody there with you.
Yeah, I'm actually the exact opposite, where I'm one of those people where it's like, stay the hell away from me when I'm working out. Like, this is my one free time where it's like nobody come within 5 feet of me. I mean, but that's just because that is literally my time where I'm alone to myself, when I'm not constantly either doing a podcast thing or doing my regular job or doing anything else. So that is my one free time where, yeah, I've had people that have wanted to come with me, and I was like, no. I was like, let me do my workout first and then you can do something with me. But it's like, yeah, when I'm doing my main thing, it's like, yeah, stay away.
Like, I just like whenever I first start getting back into working out, like I need the push and the accountability. But like once I'm like in the flow, it's like, okay, I got myself, like I'm good. Let's get like go for it.
Well, like, yeah, you can come up to me and like ask me questions and stuff like that, like if you want to, but it's like, yeah, do not expect me to be like sharing stuff with you and doing and like being like, oh yeah, we can just work out together and stuff. Unless, like I said, unless if I've already got my workout in and I have extra time, it's like, oh, I got 45 minutes to waste. I'll put you through a workout and I'll half-ass it just because I've already done my stuff too. But yeah, that's my personal thing as well. But if someone were to walk up to you and say, Ashton, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding in and of itself, and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Throw the heels out. Throw all the heels out. I'm just kidding. I would love that, but to actually, one thing I'd actually change would be, I don't know, like the bodybuilding world is pretty like it's set up very well. Like the NPC and IFBB, how they have everything is kind of a family, and they're all very supportive. And the shows, like how they have them all laid out, it's I like how they have it already. So there's not much that needs to be changed.
Well, I'd elaborate on what you were saying before, where it's like if a judge tells you that you need more of a tan, it's like, okay, come on now. I do with that, where I was like, okay, what people like us who are as white as we are, it's like we are at a disadvantage already, as enough as it is when it comes to the sport of bodybuilding, where it's like, yeah, but no, that's the thing too. But another thing that I hear of all the time, and I agree with, is that so many judges judging, pairs want, let's say your one show that you just won your pro card in, they might want you a little bit more of a leaner look. This next pro show, they might want you a little bit more of a full look, and it's just like people just don't understand that you're not able to, and especially for people that I know have done shows in like back-to-back weeks or like 2 weeks apart, it's like good luck changing your body that much for it. So it just depends. Just like with everything else in life, it's a lot of human error. And trust me, being a baseball pitcher, don't even get me started on some of those damn umps that I just basically want to tell my catcher, move out of the way the next time I throw a ball and let it hit the umpire, basically. But no, yeah, it's just it's with a lot of things in this sport too as well. And yeah, it just so fascinating. And I did mention like before that I do like to talk to next, so I will bring it up though. Like I always talk about like what's one body part that really took off for you, and obviously we can tell your legs, but what is one body part that really dragged behind that you really had to train to oblivion to get it to catch up to everything else?
Actually, my I would say my hamstrings, because like in track and no, you don't agree. Like in track and whenever I first started working out, whenever I thought legs, I was like, okay, quads workouts like nonstop, and that's what I really. Okay, he's still not on board with it, but
Just finish your damn answer, okay?
this last year I really worked on my hamstrings, and they've picked up really well, and they balanced out. They're not as balanced as I want them to be, but they've caught up more. But my upper body was one that really took off, actually. Like my legs have already been there, but my upper body, the judges told me to not get it any bigger and to kind of pull back a little bit, because whenever I first started competing in bodybuilding, I was like, okay, I gotta do upper body, like, and I really started enjoying upper body, so I went a little too hard on that one, I think.
I thought that was going to be your answer and it was going to make me feel good because my upper body was the one thing that took off for me when I got started. But no, she just found a way to make me feel even worse about myself than I already was. But yeah, so I mean, being that your upper body did take off, have you thought about maybe doing, like figure instead of wellness then if your body's just naturally responding so well?
No, I wanna stay in wellness. Like, I love wellness. Like, I'll change in my workout routines to fit more to the wellness look if I need to, and I don't think it'll be hard to because I'm pretty close. Just I need to maybe bring my upper body down and maybe a little bit or just keep it where it's at and not grow anymore.
Yeah, that's hey, I mean, I will take the one positive away from this then. You're basically going to be training lower body then for a lot of your time, and I hate training lower body too. So I mean that's just ridiculous. I did one time under tension leg day, and the next day I couldn't even really get off of my bed, and I took about 3 steps and I fell over, and I was like, "Yep, never doing this again." So one of the last few questions, I mean, if we were to talk to a year from today, where would you like to be at just in your bodybuilding journey? Where would you like to be at just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved if we were to talk to a year from today?
So, whenever I was in high school, whenever I first started track, I had a lot of issues with my gut health, and I was diagnosed with Crohn's and colitis. So I was on medicine on and off all the time, switching different drugs that I had to use to try to manage it. And finally, like I was going in and getting infusions every 8 weeks, and I'd have to sit in there for like 4 hours at a time because my Crohn's got so bad. And I was finally like, I'm just over this because my immune system was shot. Because that's one of the things that they focus on to manage Crohn's is to shut down your immune system because it's where your body is basically attacking itself within your digestive tract. And so I was finally just over all the medicine, over the shot immune system. So I changed up my diet and I started looking into more of a natural way to handle the gut issues I was dealing with. And through that, I was able to get off all the medications and just turn around my whole fitness lifestyle because I thought my fitness lifestyle was going to be just gone because of everything I was dealing with that. And it really made it better. So 10 years from now, I hope that I have, or not 10 years, 1 year from now, I hope that I will have I'm working on a gut health powder right now that I want to put out there to help other girls that are dealing with it and men that need the help with their gut health because a lot of people don't realize that the first step in your nutrition is having a healthy gut and the healthy gut lining and making sure that you don't have leaky gut, which a lot of people have and they don't even realize it. So I want to be able to help other people deal with the same issues that I dealt with.
Funny story actually coming off of Crohn's disease, and I'm going to make it funny because when I was younger, someone told me that they had Crohn's disease, and I thought they said Crohn's disease, and I thought that it was like autism or something like that. So after hanging out with them for a while, I was like, oh, you seem like you're really high functioning and stuff like that. And they're like, what? And I was like, oh, for someone that has Crohn's disease, and they're like, not Crohn's disease, Crohn's disease. And I was like, oh, okay, so that was my foray into figuring out what actually Crohn's disease was. Where I got that mixed up. So everyone, that's a brain fart on my part. So the moment you said that, that story automatically popped in my head. But yeah, that's amazing that you're able to come through that, and you're actually yeah, two or three of our other guests have had that similar things too. And it's one thing that like yeah, so many people don't understand with gut health, just how important that is and how many different issues people have where it's not talked about as much as it should be. And I am really actually glad that you brought that up, especially with, just how little information is really out there to the general public about it. And that is just great as well. And one of the last few questions before we wrap things up. So in this whole entire journey, I mean, what has been one moment other than winning your pro card? What has been one moment that you think has really defined this just entire bodybuilding journey for you?
When I was working out one day, one of the girls in our gym, she had just started going there. She came up to me and she was like super excited to talk to me. And she was asking me about tips about leg day and asking if I could help her work out and kind of see her along her journey because she wants to compete whenever she turns 17 in the, what do you call it, the teen categories. And I gave her my phone number and everything. And then one of the other guys at the gym told me that she was just like super excited that she got my phone number. And I was like, that's just, it's so weird that somebody like looks up to you that much. And so that was probably one of the most like defining moments that I'm able to kind of be a role model and help impact other women and other girls like coming up in the bodybuilding world.
Yeah, and that's yeah. I mean, I've had a few things with fans of the podcast where they reach out to me like that, and yeah, I totally agree too. But honestly, like if I saw you in the gym, I would just point and say, "You leg day now." Basically, like we're training legs right now, and you're going to show me what you did exactly. But no, that's yeah, that is odd. And honestly, though, the one thing about having the lower body, like I wouldn't like that because like yeah, I'd probably get that way too much, and I'd be like, okay, ugh. I don't even want to go to the gym. I just want to work out at home now. But that's, hey, it's definitely a part of the sport. And I mean, bodybuilding, especially like when I say that if you compete in a prep and do even one prep, I mean, you can do anything in life just because of the mental fortitude and the strength that it goes in. How do you feel that bodybuilding has helped you just being able to deal with other things in life? Because like I just said, I mean, you compete in a bodybuilding show. I mean, you can really do anything.
I think it definitely shows you a lot about yourself and shows you your mental strength. Like whenever you diet down to that point and you're constantly craving other foods and you're constantly like at the mental point to where you're just like irritated and you need to like keep strong, it shows you that okay, if I can do that, then I can kind of use that same mental strength in other aspects, and it helps push you along and keep you on track, I think.
Is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
My coach, Jonathan Withers, he has been like my backbone through this whole prep. And since I started bodybuilding, he's been with me since my first wellness show. And he's going to be with me for the whole entire journey, probably. We're working on the prep for my pro show right now. And he's just been amazing and helped me and supported me so much through the whole thing.
Yep. And that's awesome. And I want to again congratulate you on your pro card. So if do you know who Olivia Gravengard is?
Yes. Yeah.
So I messaged her when I was going to have you on because I knew that she was from Texas too, and I was like, okay. So I literally did the caption of like, she doesn't need the watermelon challenge, she needs the concrete brick challenge or whatever. When I was talking about your legs, and she's like, oh yeah, she's one of the nicest girls. Like she always shows up really lean and stuff like that. And she's like, I don't know how she does it, being a flight attendant and stuff like that. But so that's how I got into contact with you because I do the thing where I like scroll through people's Instagrams and like the people that feel like if you like this person, you might like. So I want to thank Olivia for that because without that, I would have never gotten in contact with you. And yeah, everyone go and check her out, and I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. And like I said, buyer beware. I will say shock yourself before you look at a photo of her because like we can't see it right now, but just brace yourself because for me too, it was one of those things where I was like, I almost cried because I was actually waiting at the doctor's office I was getting my COVID shot and I saw her photo and I was like, what? What the hell's going on now? So again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I mean, I really, really appreciate it and we wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Absolutely. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.